it's really exciting, everybody, for you to understand this truth, because it's actually true. In a private enterprise, even with all the external realities, if you lose your biggest client and then have to fire everyone, well, then you allowed your biggest client to represent too big of a percentage of your company. When I started my client service business, to this day, nobody represents more than 15% of my business, just not a meaningful enough one that puts me in a vulnerable spot. Yet I see people that run client service businesses have Constellation or Nike or BMW or somebody as their biggest client. And then when they lose them, they blame everybody else except themselves. Every day, every time we land a very large client, I then basically spend all my energy on making sure that I go and land 2 to 3 other big clients to round out because I'm worried about the vulnerability. I'm worried about the vulnerability. And so, you know, when 3 people quit in a media team because the head of your media person, or 6 people in HR quit because you're head of HR, or 1 person quits because of your CFO, like, you've hired all those leaders. I've hired every single person in my company, whether I've done it directly or I hired the person that hired them. I promise you, the quickest way to be excited, happy, wake up in the morning with vigor, enjoy it, not burn out, and not be anxious about these incredible ambitions that sit in all of your bodies, of your next steps, professionally and personally for that matter. The number one way to be at peace is around accountability. When you go into blame game, you are vulnerable. And I couldn't, and I mean couldn't push this more. And when I see Mazza say accountability is contagious, if leaders show they're accountable, then everyone, it's absolutely true, Matt. The more accountable I've become, and I started very accountable and I just kept compounding because I reinforced things that were good and I try to work on things that weren't good. I mean, it's crazy. And by the way, people are also incredibly appreciative of an accountable leader. Even if they don't have the stomach at that point in their life to be accountable, they have much more compassion for a leader that is accountable, outwardly accountable. This is a very, very major thing that I want to start with, and I really wanted to put on everyone's radar.
I was in school for like 16 years of my life.
Yeah.
And I find the transition a little bit difficult.
Because that was so structured?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, don't beat yourself up.
Yeah.
You landed in the right place.
Yeah.
We're not gonna beat you up.
You don't. No one does.
Right.
Everyone's so inviting.
So I think you're beating yourself up. You're 5 seconds out.
I know.
The end.
I know. Because I feel like I did so well in school. I was like, okay, so how do I translate that into
You don't. But you don't think you can't not.
No, I just don't know how to get
Right,
it.
you gotta get out of that rhythm.
Yeah.
You gotta get into real life rhythm.
Yeah.
But you're a kid. You're a kid.
Yeah. Only 23.
Don't beat yourself up if it's not coming easy yet. You have to decompose from that old environment.
Yeah. That's how.
And then try to do a couple things that feel uncomfortable. It's always stretching yourself.
Yeah, and so that's something too, like finding the motivation too, to find different things to branch out. I'm like, I have a lot of interest, but I'm like, I don't know if I could get into that. I don't know how to get into that. I don't know the right steps or people to talk to. And I'm always constantly like doing it and then like
pulling back.
And then wanting to put up my all here, and then I do that, and I'm just, it's always like.
Yeah, I think you need to deploy some patience.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have plenty of ambitions. I'm sure you have things you want to prove to yourself and to others. We all do. Yeah. But patience is the absolute secret sauce to all of this.
Yeah. That's definitely the hardest part, because I always would say like, yeah, you always have like, oh, project 3 months, you're done. Like, you did great, A. And then now it's like, okay, now it's like, you always say it's like a long game. It's like, all right, when do you finally see the fruits of your labor like come out? And you never know like when it'll happen, like when it'll actually translate.
Yeah, and it's like the fruits of your labor, a fruits of your labor conversation at 23, to me is ludicrous.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
I get it, but I want to get you out of it.
Yeah, I know. And
I was 34 years old when I left my dad's liquor store, and like had nothing. I built my dad's liquor store for him, like didn't make that much money, like, and was just starting at 34.
Yeah, I know. I always think about things like that, and I'm just like, why? You can achieve so much.
Do you feel pressure from anybody outside yourself? If you're being honest?
Well, when I was at school, I definitely felt pressure from my family, but not because they would make me feel pressure, but I feel like I always did well. Like I should expect, I should live up to the expectation.
Yeah.
But outside right now, not really. I think it really comes from within me.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's the pressure like that motivates me.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that's right. I think if you can just figure out if you're being competitive with your circle of friends or things of that nature, envy, competition, whatever it could be around that, it's super important for you to understand it. Because once you get, like, it's incredibly empowering and happy once you can calibrate all this.
Yeah, and I feel like it's kind of like piece by piece. Like,
Well,
I'm in a place where I love, and then I'm like, okay, but how do I get from here to like my full potential? Like, how do I finally like break that mold? And like, yes, like this is so sad. Like, it's satisfying.
By trusting the process and always auditing if you're complacent or being patient.
Right now, I'm being patient. That's for sure.
Right. But to me, you're probably not if you're having this level of complex. Like, you know what advice I would get? Listen, I don't know enough yet, but like intuitively right now in this limited time, I feel like literally making a rule that you can't think about anything other than like one day at a time, having fun, learning, being young for the next 24 months. Like, not allowed. That like you have to wait till your 25th birthday to even start debating what's happening here would be monumentally impactful on you.
I feel like a lot of pressure taken off my shoulder just thinking like that. So
you have to understand, you could do nothing right for the next 7 years. Start putting it together on your 30th birthday and still have plenty of time to achieve everything. I get it.
Yeah.
You know what's scary? It's true.
Yeah. And I know you talk about like instant gratification, like it's not about that, and I feel like I always trying to break the mold to like, okay, I can't get it right now. I have to just slow down.
The fact that you're even thinking about getting it or not getting it is the problem.
Okay, that makes sense.
25, no judging, no debating, no even pondering if this is good, bad, getting you to where you need to or not.
Okay.
I'm being serious with you. I think that gets you to where you want to get to way faster than debating it in the short term. You need to take a little steam out of the engine and take a breath a little bit.
Okay.
It will help you. It'll get a lot more quiet, which will create a lot more room. You should go do your own thing.
But like my surrounding, they just like so forcing me to do what they want me to do instead of giving me a chance.
But they're not in charge. They're only in charge if you're using their home and their money.
Okay, and plus my mom, she said that I am disappointed her because of my choice.
Of course, because she's using psychological pressure for you to do what she wants. The only thing you have to figure out is if they have any leverage. The only leverage they have is money, shelter, and psychological warfare.
Yes, I'm living with them, so yeah.
What's that?
I'm living with them, so.
Well, if you're gonna wanna go do your own thing, you're gonna have to move. And you're not gonna have to, like, here's my big thing with kids. Like, as you can tell, I'm very pro you. But if you're gonna go do this thing that's disappointing them, then you can't take from them either, because then you're being spoiled. So if you feel so passionate about this thing that you wanna go do it. But don't expect them to support it because they don't believe in it.
Yes, they don't believe in it.
So go stick it in their face. Right? Let me tell you one thing about parents, and this is very common. They may be upset now, but if you go and pull this off, they will not be disappointed. And more importantly, if you go and try this, deep down one day, they'll tell you secretly that they're not disappointed.